Hello everyone. Originally I wanted to do a video in a similar style to the Is Hammer OP, but for vacuum. But then we got the patch announced, and I figure I might as well do a little bit of my hopes for it specific to this meta. And that'll allow me to talk about vacuum a bit, because I kind of already did for Rainmaker, and I just don't have as much to really fill out an actual ramble. So today I'm going to be talking about the changes I want to see in patch 11.0. It's a bit of a wish list more than what I think will happen. I'm not going to go over like every single change I would want, obviously, just the main ones. So, let me get my biggest hopes out of the way first. The thing I most care about being nerfed is honestly just some of these specials. I think Booyah Bomb is way too tanky. I think that it helps a lot with S-Blast being a problem, with Booyah Flux being too good in Turf War, even inflates a few other weapons a little bit, honestly, and I just don't like Booyah's balance too much right now. I like the idea that they made it faster. I am fine with that. I don't care about the slightly larger radius. It's easy enough to outpaint. But this special is way too tanky. And I've seen it more and more and more over time. Like, the fact that you can Booyah so fast effectively gives you more relevant HP. Like, even though the HP wasn't buffed, you can just throw Booyah down so much faster that it ends up making it really hard to shred. I think this just needs a slight HP nerf. I think it needs to be more situational when used as a panic button and should be more punishable. I think that the main weapon that benefits from Booyah's current state is also the one that everyone complains about right now, which is S-Blast. We'll get to S-Blast later because I think it inevitably needs another nerf besides this, but I think that S-Blast is the weapon most often getting away with situations where it panic Booyahs. The special I want nerfed even more than that, though, is Tri-Strike. Now, outside of Bucket being really good, and there's not really a good way to nerf Bucket, so I think this is a fair way to approach it, Strike isn't particularly common right now, but I still do find it the most offensive special design in the game right now, especially in a zones-only setting. I think it caps objectives a little too much. I don't care what exactly they do to it, I just want it to be weaker. Less damage, less paint slower, something like that. Even a cooldown would be fine, but I'd like to see the special toned back for similar reasons. And combined, hopefully this would mean that Booyah and striking things like objectives would be a little less common. Finally on the nerfs list for specials is Stamp. I've talked about this in my Stamp video already. I don't think it 100% needs to happen, but I think for the sake of making the game a little bit less annoying, we can slightly tone down this 220 hitbox. Like, just a little bit. Like, give it like a 5 or 10% radius nerf. You can keep the 60 hitbox the way it is, but the thrown 1-1 shot is a little bit too ridiculous for my taste right now. That's all the changes I want to specials in terms of nerfs. For buffs, I mean, there's a bunch of small things. I would like to see some Zipcaster buff. I'm not sure what they could do, but I'm in favor of Stamper getting a little stronger in particular, and I think Zip is very healthy, so something to make it a little stronger would be good. Wavebreaker, please, give something to Wavebreaker. Inkjet has been a long-neglected special I'd like to see get some kind of buff. I'd still like to see a Reef Slider rework to remove Zones Cheese and buff it a little bit. And honestly, Kraken could use a bit of a buff. Kraken, Triple Splashdown, and Super Chump could all be ones that I could see being changed as well. For the most part, I don't care too much about special buffs this patch. I mostly care about the nerfs for once with this one. A few specials are just a little too inflated. Points for special, I'll do a little more briefly. Vimy needs to be 200p, and honestly, VAC 96 might fall into that as well. I'm a little less sure about VAC 96 because I don't think it's as broken by any means, and I think Vacuum is a lot more balanced. But VAC 96 being used as much for, like, how often it cycles VAC is a little too special spammy for me. So I wouldn't mind 200p for this weapon. I don't think it would really ruin its game plan. It would just put it in line a little bit more. I don't think Vacuum is too good. I think that the counterplay for it is good, and it's mostly balanced. But I think the output on this weapon in particular is a little bit much for my tastes. Anyway, on to main weapons. I'm going to go through classes. If we want to mitigate a 96 points for special nerf, I'd like to see it paint under itself in 3 shots instead of 5. That would help out with the other 96s. And can we please take 96 deco and, like, make it 200p for Kraken? This thing being 210 doesn't make any sense, honestly. I'd like to see that adjusted. Besides that, I don't got much for shooters. I think they're mostly fine right now. Maybe give H3 like a bit of an ink efficiency or paint buff or something. That would be fine. Rollers buff Dynamo's paint. They're never going to do it, but that's what needs to happen. Chargers, I'd like to see Pencil get a small range or paint reduction or even 230p for cooler. I think Pencil is seeing more competition than ever before, especially in zones, but a little bit of a nudge to just make pencil comps a tiny bit weaker, I think would be a good direction. Give Squiffer a buff. Like, can we lower the points for special on these two in particular? They're both so expensive. I don't really know why they're like that. Tri Nouveau is another one that should beat 200p. Try seeing a little more use, and I think this would help it a lot if its cooler output wasn't as big a problem. Can we buff Explo's main weapon? This is like almost enough to be its own discussion, but Explo in S2 was built around trapping opponents, and Cooler kind of prevents that. This weapon hasn't been seeing any use. It doesn't have any amazing kit. Like, can we do something with Explo? That would be cool for me personally. Splatlings, outside of the mini points for special that I talked about earlier, I don't think there's really too much I'd like to see here. Splatlings are mostly balanced. Maybe give Edit like a small buff. I don't really know what you would do though. Dualies I also think are mostly fine. Can we give Dualie Squelcher 30 damage? It's been waiting for 30 damage. Just give Dualie Squelcher 30 damage. Give Dowsers better paint and like buff something about the combat for Tetra. Brella I still want to give slightly better damage. I think like either that or we just straight up need a third kit. You can also take this from 210 to 200p on the jetpack kit. I think that'd be fair. Give Recycle like some small combat buff or 180p bubble. It is like right there. And then 10 should also get slightly better damage or maybe like a slightly cheaper ink vacuum. Like a 180 ink vac would be interesting for it. Blasters, I still would like to see a small buff to range. Better RNG would be a good one, or intensify action stacking. S-Blast, tone back the range very slightly, like 3 or 5% on both firing modes, or take the short range shot and make its radius go from 4.0 to 3.9. I don't think that would help much on the top end, though. I think a slight range reduction would be a little easier. Like, literally the buffs they're doing to, like, shot and stuff do the opposite. Like, take 3% range off of both firing modes, so it's a little bit easier to space it out. Make this rapid 190 for cooler, please. That would also be a good change. Brushes, I think, are fine. Maybe a little bit less egregious damage drop-off on Ink Brush would be good. Like, it doesn't hurt you as badly. Besides that, I think they're fine. Bows are all doing better, but I'd like to see a small buff to Wellstring, make its one-shot range a little bit easier or something like that. Maybe a 3% range increase. Same thing for Reflex. I'd like to see a 3% range increase in, I guess, also nerf the paint slightly because of Milk Flux, maybe, if we're going to do that, but I'd like to see combat on Reflex get a little better. And buff Wiper and Stamper. Yes, I'm so serious. Buff these two weapons. Like, these need to be better candidates against other weapons. And I also just realized now that I'm talking about buffing top tiers, give Squeezer a little bit back from the nerfs we took from it. Like, give it a little more fighting power back. I say give it the shot velocity that it used to have. Not the range, but the shot velocity back would be good, and maybe some of the mobility. But yeah, I mean, bit of a speed run here, but that's kind of my hopes. We'll see what happens in the actual patch itself, but I do want to see this be a larger patch. I know there's a lot of people worried about the meta being stale, and the balance is mostly good, but we really need some impactful buffs here. We're not getting weapon kits, so I need to see some more main weapons be interesting over the next few months. Please make it happen. Thank you.